The clouds had cleared, the sun came out. It was a beautiful day in the Finger Lakes region of New York. And finally, after much anticipation, we went racing at Watkins Glen.
We're glad you're with us on this Sunday afternoon. Stay with us for an afternoon of exciting racing. Tim Richmond has won the Budweiser at the Glen. Rusty Wallace has won the Budweiser at the Glen.
Mark Martin is 3 for 3 at Watkins Glen.
Here comes the road course king, Jeff Gordon. Second win in a row. Tony Stewart goes back to back and wins at the Glen.
Trouble here coming off turn number 11. A number of cars have gotten together at the entrance to pit road.
We have got cars everywhere. Carnage down here at the end of pit road.
Back it down, back it down. Right with you. Stay in the bottom, stay in the bottom. Looking low, diving in. Blend if you squeeze there, blend. Stay low, good job. 10, we got hit in the left rear quarter. One wrecked you. Why'd he get out? Why'd he get out, Tab?
Kyle Busch gets the victory, his 8th of the year. And he wins here today at Watkins Glen International.
NASCAR Now is presented by The Home Depot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to NASCAR Now. I'm Mike Massaro, along with Ray Evernham, Randy LaJoy, and Ricky Craven. This is an unscripted show because the race just ended, so we're kind of winging it here, but bear with us. It's going to be a pretty good show. Lots of interesting things to talk about. Gentlemen, first off, rain delays. This is a second consecutive week where these guys had to race on Monday. What's the psychology behind having to wait to race on Monday afternoon?
You know, actually, Mike, it's not that bad if NASCAR calls the race early enough so the drivers can say, okay, I'm going to regroup, and I'm going to get back into my routine, get up tomorrow morning, and just go through the whole process again. But if it drags on and on and on, it can be daunting.
You know, 2 days, you know, the only difference they have is if they had a golf match this morning. You know, I mean, the guys play golf on Monday afternoon after their drivers' crew chiefs meeting at the shop. That's all it changes. The drivers really don't care.
Right, the drivers don't care, but from the crew chief and the owner's standpoint, it makes for a really short week. You know, you spent last night or during the rain delay scrambling around, getting hotel rooms, making sure your Sunday guys are set, who's going to keep overnight and who you're not. So a lot of stress there that takes a little focus off the crew chief. And then it makes for a really short week because you got to remember, NASCAR doesn't back up when you have to sign in. These guys still have to be in Michigan on Thursday.
Yeah, those guys normally get Mondays off if they get any days off at all, and they haven't had those Mondays off the last couple of weeks. Hey, folks, let's take a look now at the highlight from this afternoon, and Kyle Busch trying to maintain his hopes for making the chase. Started outside of chase position and got off to a pretty good start. The pole sitter Jimmy Johnson racing down into turn number 1, but Kurt Busch had a pretty strong race start.
That's one thing we'll see later in this event. That outside lane did good.
Moving a little bit forward, Jimmy Johnson, his car starts to go away there, and Marcus Ambrose, who showed us what he had on a road course during the nationwide race on Saturday, comes to life.
Yeah, Jimmy's car started loose, and they never really came back to him all day long, but the 47 car of Marcus Ambrose was strong all day long.
Caution flag comes out, lap 18, and everyone heads to pit road. Here's where we start to see a little bit of strategy unfold.
Yeah, the 47 car and the 9 car chose not to pit. Everybody else pitted early, so they were going to be close. Right there, we saw a little incident on pit road. A 42 car just contacted one of the crew members from the 6. We understand he wasn't hurt real bad, but still, scary incident on pit road.
Dwayne Ogle suffering the injury there, but it was minor. He was treated and released from the infield care center. Race off pit road, and you can see that Kurt Busch did win the race off pit road. Denny Hamlin still a factor. Here we see the restart. And Marcos Ambrose getting a real good jump, Ricky.
And you know, repetition means something in every sport. It means something in NASCAR. The fact he ran all day, 2 days earlier in the Nationwide Series helped.
Hey, what about this guy? When you get off the racetrack, you're supposed to lock the brakes up. He backs it up and takes out Jeff Gordon and Kevin Harvick.
That's why track position means something.
And of course, that was David Stremme. Heavy damage to Jeff Gordon, but that was only minor compared to what he would suffer later in the race. We'll get to that momentarily. Lap 27. Kurt Busch had an awfully strong race car. People thought that he was the class of the field for quite some time.
Pitted early again on lap 30, though, for fuel. Marcus Ambrose in making his stop also.
And Marcos Ambrose had some interesting pit strategy of his own. We'll discuss later in the show. Jimmy Johnson started on the pole, but he had to battle Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch making his way past the 48 car. 41 laps to go. This is an incident we'll be talking about. Dale Earnhardt Jr., his troubles continue.
A sickening, helpless feeling when you go for the pedal and it's not there. This is why drivers tap the brake before every corner entry.
That pea gravel really helps a lot. You've seen that 43 car going across there. If it wasn't for that pea gravel, he would have hit that wall driver's side first.
Midway through the race, more racing action. Of course, Tony Stewart starting to show a little bit of what he has. We all knew he'd be a favorite at the Glen, considering he had 4 wins coming into this particular race.
And Stewart certainly moved his way up from 12th nice and slow. There we see our partner Boris running a little bit hot there, Boris.
And overheating a little bit midway through. That would come back to bite him at the end of the race, would not finish under his own power. Back on pit road after a caution, Reed Sorensen back in the pea gravel, and this will set up some more pit stops.
Boy, this sure changed things, didn't it, Ray? We were looking for a caution.
Oh, it could have. You know, that caution not coming out right there, you know, really gave us a race. It could have put Tony Stewart out of position to win that race.
Nearing the finish, and this was the big one, folks. Getting off the track, Sam Hornish spinning wildly, Jeff Gordon slamming the inside retaining wall. Jeff Burton also catching a piece of it. This was a very scary incident.
And this is why we call Watkins Glen a super speedway, because when you have an incident, it's always big because of the speeds. Drivers are vulnerable. Like Ray said when we were watching this race, with the wall inside and out, there's no place to escape.
And those tires, when they catch a car, they seem to put it in the air and shoot it back across the race course. So they might have to do a little bit of something there to slow that acceleration or recoil so to stop the car from coming back across the track.
What about the thumbs up issues for the CLT cars for safety?
Yeah, there we are last year. You can see at Watkins Glen, these incidents happen. When cars come in, they get fired back across the track, inside and outside guardrail, no place for guys to go.
Got to give a lot of credit to folks who designed the car of tomorrow, or we should say the car of today, Brett Bodine and those folks. It has been very safe. After a 20-minute delay, red flag racing concluded, and we went back to green flag action, and it was Tony Stewart and Kyle Busch on the restart battling.
Kyle Busch picked the outside lane. Tony got the jump on him the time before and on the inside. I think Kyle says, I'm going to change it up a little bit. You see Elliott Sadler gets, there was 2 wrecks right here. 19 got spun around and the 55.
And it's crunch time, 17 laps to go. Go time, as they say. Tony Stewart on the accelerator facing a pretty stiff challenge from Marcos Ambrose.
But he played it like a great game of poker. I mean, he really had more in his hand than what he showed early on. And when it came time to go, he went. The only issue would have been fuel mileage.
Yeah, and everybody was wondering whether or not either one of those 2 cars in front could go the distance. All that was ended, all the questioning was ended when the checkers came out. Tony Stewart not only able to finish with enough fuel, able to do a burnout afterward as well. And Tony Stewart, your winner, he picks up his 3rd victory of 2009, his 5th win at Watkins Glen, a pretty impressive record there. Marcos Ambrose, his best career finish, finishing 2nd. Now we go back to Watkins Glen, where Tony Stewart joins us live. And Tony, congratulations. Thanks for joining us here on NASCAR Now on the Roundtable. Ray Evernham's with us, Randy LaJoie and Ricky Craven, and what a remarkable win for you. You know, you had to hold off Marcos Ambrose there at the end. How much of a challenge did he give you?
Well, he kept us honest all day. I mean, we had to, we didn't have the flexibility to save brakes and to run an easy pace. I mean, we had to run a hard pace all the way to the end. But you know, I never felt like I was abusing the tires. Never felt like I was abusing the brakes. I could run a really hard pace, but one that was comfortable at the same time. But there were spots on the track that he was faster than we were, and there were sections that I felt like we were able to pull away from him, and it kind of just balanced the lap time out.
Hey, Tony, this is Ray. Great job today. Congratulations. But, you know, you had just a strong car. When you started back in 12th position, as you were coming up through there, did you know from the beginning of the race you had the car to win?
I didn't feel like we did at the beginning. I had the guys make a change after happy hour, and I went the wrong way. It was my fault, and you know, but that shows the strength of this team. When we came in for the first pit stop, I asked for some pretty big changes that were pretty lengthy changes time-wise, and that we lost about 6 spots. But like you say, after that first stop, and even though we lost a little bit of track position there, we were able to get it back. And at that point, I knew that we were pretty good. I just didn't know who we were going to be good with. I knew there were guys in front of us that were strong. I just hadn't before that. First caution came out, I didn't have the flexibility to be up close enough to the front to see who we were really going to have to race for the whole day.
Tony Stewart, Randy LaJoie. Now, do you think your sprint car stuff and all your IRL experience turning right when you race sprint cars, how much has that helped you? Because you're just an awesome road racer.
I don't think any of it helped. I never ran road courses with the IRL, but you know, and the sprint car stuff's a little different when you're back steering the car. But this is just something I think that you know, racing in WKA and racing for Comet Kart Sales and Mark Dismore all of my young career in go-karts. So I think that helped us a lot when we came and started running here. It was just a matter of learning how to shift. That was the one thing that I wasn't used to. But it seemed like once we got the shifting part down, the rest of it kind of fell in place. And this is just a track that we've always ran well at. And you know, I think we've run in the top 2 the last 8 races or 7 races in a row. So it's a place that's really good to us and we love.
Congratulations, Tony. Ricky Craven, a big discussion leading into Watkins Glen always is wheel hop. You look smooth as silk leading this race, but I'm curious, did you have any issues with that? I mean, were you on the edge the last 15, 20 laps?
I really wasn't, Ricky. You know, I found a really good balance yesterday with my brakes. I mean, I got to give AP a ton of credit. I mean, we've worked with those guys since I was with Gibbs, and you know, we've always had good luck with AP brakes. I've run the same rotor and pad combination for about 6 years now, so it works for me. The only time that we had a wheel hop was after somebody dropped the left sides off before we went down the hill there, and it got a little grass on the track, and we still only, I think, slid up about 3/4 of a car width, so we really didn't even miss the corner that bad. But I never had an issue, and I kept sneaking more rear braking it all day, thinking that I was going to get to the point where I did, and I could feel where I was getting close to being over the top with it, and we just left it there, and the balance was really good all day.
Tony, just to wrap this up, I want to ask you more of a big picture question. Just 4 regular season races remaining. You've got 3 wins now. You've been leading the championship points for the better part of the season here. Darian Grubb, your crew chief, was asked after the race today if you guys are where you want to be entering the chase, and he said, we still have a little bit more work to do. Where do you think you still can get better?
Well, I mean, we're still, you know, for us, we're still learning each other, and we're still learning these racetracks, and we've gelled really well. I mean, I'm so proud of Darian and how good a job he's done of not only doing a good job as a crew chief, but he's done a great job as a leader of the whole organization with Bobby Hutchins and Tony Gibson of getting everything ready to start this year and be competitive. So the work that he did in the off season has led to this point. But we're still trying to fine tune, and we feel like on the 1.5 miles we can still be a little bit better. We've been strong, but we feel like that the 48 and the 24 might be just a little better than us, and we're trying to catch up there. And it's just a fine-tuning game at this point. I mean, the guys that are in the top 5 or 6 in the points, I mean, they got their act together. So every little bit counts right now.
Well, it's going to be fun to watch. Congratulations once again, and good luck moving forward.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Tony Stewart, your winner at the Glen, and let's take a look now at the most road course wins. And well, Jeff Gordon still is at the top of that list with 9 victories, but Tony Stewart closing in fast. And guys, this is a pretty impressive list of drivers.
It is an impressive list, and what was impressive about today for me with Tony Stewart is you always draw a correlation this year with Tony Stewart and Hendrick drivers, but Tony Stewart separated himself today from the Hendrick drivers.
Well, today's race had an effect on a number of guys still jockeying for position inside the points. When we come back, we'll tell you how the bubble was affected by today's race at Watkins Glen.
NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot. Visit HomeDepot.com. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. And in part by Fast Signs. Sign and graphic solutions made simple.
Tony Stewart made it look pretty easy at Watkins Glen, but don't be fooled. There were definitely some anxious moments, and the guy who probably felt them the most was the guy atop the pit box, and that, of course, I'm speaking of, is the crew chief, and that would be Darian Grubb. And Darian Grubb now joins us live from Watkins Glen as well. Darian, congratulations. Fuel, certainly an issue. How close were you?
It was pretty close. It always is when you're out there road course racing. You got to try to play the strategy back from the end of the race to make sure you're going to be one of those first guys to pit. But we were able to stretch our first run a little bit longer with some strategy and some chassis changes we were making. So ended up working out pretty well for us.
Darian, this is Ray Evernham. Congratulations. You guys are just doing an incredible job this year for putting that team together. You should be really, really proud. It's a great job that you're doing. But with about inside of 10 laps to go, it looked like maybe the 47 was closing up a little bit. Were you having Tony back down, short shift, and saving some fuel as that was going on?
Yeah, we were a little bit. Tony and I had talked before the race, and we made sure that we had a plan there at the end. If you're out leading and you don't need to push any harder than you have to, you just got to be a little easier on your equipment. It's easier on the brakes, easier on the fuel and everything if you're able to do that. So he was able to pretty much match the 47 lap for lap, and anytime he made a big gain on him, Tony was able to push it just a little bit harder to make sure he stayed up there and kept that lead.
Darian, Randy LaJoie, we heard during the event, Tony wanted as much power as he wanted because in happy hour, you guys could have detuned it a little bit, but you didn't. Well, what can you do, and what could have you done to save a little bit of gas?
There's always a lot of things you can do, basically taking horsepower away just to save a little bit of fuel. But with Tony out there driving and his record here at Watkins Glen, we had to make sure we didn't mess anything up and just give him everything he needed and just put all the fuel in it we had to have and give him all the tools he needed to go out there and drive to the win.
Hey, Darian, Ricky Craven, congratulations. My curiosity is this, that you and Tony are exceptional, obviously, but you're still learning one another. I mean, you're still in the second, third, fourth inning of this, and as you go through practice, this was all set up with a strong car. At what point during practice do you say, Tony, are we there? Or do you just keep exploring and just, use every minute of practice? I'm curious, where do you end it?
Yeah, we use pretty much every minute of practice. I talked to Tony several times through our first two practices and qualifying, and you could tell we were getting better with all the changes we were making. Then the lap times still just really weren't there, exactly what we wanted to have. And I told Tony that most of the guys were out there running 72 seconds flat, and we were about 72.80s. And he just said he wasn't really ready to run that fast yet. And then the next run, he went out there and ran 72.30. So we knew that car had a little bit more in it, and he was just getting the feel that he needed. So he does a great job managing the car, managing tires, managing brakes and fuel and everything. So made our job pretty easy. All we got to do is just not mess it up.
Darian, just 4 regular season races remain. It appears you're pretty much a lock to be inside this chase, maybe even the #1 seed. In years past, teams that have been in the position you're in right now have sometimes used these final races as a tune-up for the chase, a period of time to maybe experiment a little bit. How do you guys plan to use these final 4 races?
It's funny that everybody says that, but what they forget is we are a new team. I'm new to working with Tony. This was the first time we'd ever been to Watkins Glen, so we're experimenting every week. We're always trying new things to try to make Tony a little more comfortable in race cars and try to get a little speed. And I think every time we've gone back to a track for the second time, and now hopefully we're going to start doing more and more of that, we're getting stronger and stronger race cars. So hopefully we're going to keep hitting our stride and keeping this momentum up, and we should be even better off.
Well, you definitely do have some momentum, and we expect bigger things out of you in the future. No pressure or anything, but congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Darian Grubb live from Watkins Glen. Still plenty more to come here on NASCAR Now. As we move forward in this show, certainly a lot of changes going on inside the standings. We'll take a look at how this race affected those guys trying to battle for a playoff spot as we look at the battle for the bubble coming up.
Welcome back to NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot.
The race to the chase tightened among the bubble drivers. Juan Pablo Montoya moved up 1 spot, 7th. Kyle Busch remains in the 13th spot, but now trails 12th place Matt Kenseth by 58 points. Now, well, we had some interesting days. Let's recap, starting with Casey Kane, right?
Yeah, Casey had a good car, got a 17th place finish, but got off on fuel mileage early, pitted and got in the back and never really came back through. Right here, got into an incident, got loose under Sam Hornish and narrowly missed that big crash.
Juan Pablo Montoya certainly a favorite coming in. He had some momentum and is a road course ace.
You know, this race team has put a strategy together to finish a certain amount of races in a certain point position so they can get into the chase, so they can go racing.
Ryan Newman, well, his teammate went to victory lane. His day not quite as good. Spun out here, got off the racetrack, and really was not a factor most of the day, Ricky.
No, and you know what? It comes down to this. He finished 21st. If that's your worst day, you can live with it.
And this one was the one that was most surprising to me. Mark Martin came in. He had been the winningest driver in 2009. 3 career victories at Watkins Glen, never a factor.
No, they said they really never had speed all weekend, never got the car to the way that Mark liked it. Mark's a great road racer, but finished 23rd today.
This guy, though, an impressive performance. Started 42nd and fought his way toward the front most of the day.
He's a champion. He knows how to points race. He knew he had to get out of here with a top 15. He come out of here 14.
And he's still in contention for a chase spot. Greg Biffle, another very good day for him. He was a guy who had to turn in a pretty good performance and was running with the leaders toward the end of the race and contending for the win. Had to be pretty happy with his performance.
It was really good. the guys did a great job, good pit strategy, and our engine ran really good, transmission and gearbox, and the axle, everything worked good, brakes were good. So that's what you need to have for a good finish. Just really excited about it. The guys did a great job, and I kept it on the track all day. It was really fun. Passed some cars there at the end. Unfortunately, I was starting to run out of gas, so I couldn't put any more pressure on the 18 car, and just had to back up a little bit and stay in front of the 42. But it seems like that always happens at the end of these races. You got to slow down to make it to the end. But good day for us overall.
With a fourth-place finish, Kyle Busch did what he needed to do. He cut the deficit. Now just 58 points out of chase contention. A pretty good performance. Right here.
Yeah, it was. A lot of pressure for Kyle to conform.
Everything. Wouldn't turn, wouldn't leave, wouldn't stop, wouldn't accelerate, everything. Just, I'm tired. That wore me out right there. I had to drive everything I had that was worth that car, and I could barely hang on to fourth. So great work by all the M&M's team guys. They did a good job this weekend. We fought hard, and that was 3 times harder than I had to drive here last year, and last year we spanked them.
Another guy who drove pretty hard, Brian Vickers, rolled off 20th and had to fight his way through the field. Just skirted this incident here as he gets by David Stremme. A near miss there, and well, he was able to nurse that car home. A pretty solid finish. 11th for Brian Vickers. Clint Boyer, another guy looking for a good run, had a pretty solid effort going in. Started deep in the field, 38th, but rallied to the front.
And I got to believe if somebody asked him before the race started, will you take a 9th, he'd say absolutely. Did a great job.
And David Rudeman, who took a big hit in the points at Pocono, trying to make up for it at Watkins Glen. A little bit of an incident here with Joey Logano.
Yeah, a little bump with Joey there. Not a great day, but finished in top 25. They need to make some big gains if that car's going to make it into the chase.
Yeah, 25th. That's not exactly where he wanted to be, but I guess a solid day considering it was a road course. And the race to the chase is starting to shape up like this. Matt Kenseth has a 58-point cushion with that final spot over Kyle Busch. And, I'm telling you guys, if I had Kyle Busch breathing down my neck with 4 races to go, I don't think 58 points would be all that comfortable.
Especially where they're headed. I'm going to head into Michigan. Yep. Richmond. Kyle Busch has been phenomenal at these racetracks.
I think you give me a chance to finish my sentence here. Okay. A lot of pressure for Kyle Busch to conform to a points racer. You know what? He did it today. A top 5 was exactly what he needed.
Yeah, and this next month is certainly going to be a test of that temperament for sure. Hey, one incident that happened today at Watkins Glen is going to trump all others in terms of the water cooler effect. People are going to be talking about it for quite some time. Of course, we're talking about the big one that collected Jeff Gordon, Jeff Burton, Sam Hornish. Well, we're going to go back out to the racetrack. One person who had a bird's eye view of the whole thing and talked to many of the drivers involved was Nicole Mansky. And Nicole, what can you tell us?
Well, last year after this race, we said, oh, the big one at a road course. How often do we see that? Well, we saw the exact same thing happen this year when Sam Hornish Jr. got into an incident with Casey Kane on the racetrack. Like you said, it took out a bunch of drivers, including Jeff Gordon. Now, Jeff Gordon is no slouch here at Watkins Glen. He has won 4 different times. His last win came, though, in 2001. He's had bad luck since then, and today the bad luck just simply continued, but not just for Gordon.
He got loose and had to correct, and I thought, got me sideways. I thought, well, the tires are probably going to hurt a little bit. I didn't think I was going to get hit by 2 more cars, so obviously I haven't seen it, but it was a pretty big hit, but the cars are pretty safe.
I'm just glad Sam's all right. Saw him get wide there off the carousel and come around. I knew he was going to hit the tire barrier and ricochet off, and I just was hoping I'd get by him before he got, out to me, and then I nailed him and spun him around like a top, and my car just came to a halt.
I knew he was coming back. There was nothing I could do, and I eyed him, and I knew where he was coming, and I tried to get slowed up. I knew he was coming back, but there's nothing I could do. So I wasn't real sure which one I hit or if I hit both of them, and but it was a bigger hit than I want to have again in a little while.
Tony Stewart took over the overall points lead from Jeff Gordon 10 races ago at Dover. Since then, Stewart has pretty much outshined the other champion. We're talking about Jeff Gordon, though. Smoke has pretty much just outpointed him by 386 points in that time frame. Mike?
Nicole, before we let you go, I want to ask you one other question. Jeff Gordon alluded to his back injury in his interviews today, talking about how this may have aggravated it. What else can you tell us about that?
Well, if you saw him leaving the infield care center here at Watkins Glen, he was walking a little stiffly. He said his left side is very much bothering him, and for the next few weeks, he does expect to have very intense back spasms. He says that's what happened in Dover after he took the hit there in qualifying. He expects that to be the case right now heading into next weekend and the next few weekends. But will it affect his performance? Jeff Gordon said no, because Michigan is actually easy. Mike?
All right, Nicole, I don't know if any racetrack is easy with a back injury, guys, but when we saw this wreck today, we were all sitting in the same room and we all gasped. What were your thoughts when you saw that wreck?
I hope their belts were tight. That's something that, we heard Sam Horner say these guys have been really working on getting the seats on these cars. They have the carbon seats, my aluminum seat. We're going to have a spec on these seats in the next year, I do believe, in 2010 for a safer seat, a stronger seat. Being a crash test dummy, I know what you need not to feel that bad on Monday morning.
I wondered what those things were on the side of your head.
I'll tell you what bothers me is that's a sweeping right-hand turn where you're going from second to third. You're blind. You can't see around the corner. It's very fast, and as a driver, you don't have any time to react to something like that. And that's when you can get hurt, is when you don't have time to react and brace for the impact. And that really bothered me.
We talked a little bit about the racetrack at this point, too. It's a very narrow portion of the racetrack with guardrails on the inside and the outside. Is there anything that you think can be done to the racetrack to maybe prevent this from happening in the future?
Well, part of what you see there at Watkins Glen, they use tires, tire wall, and again, anything to slow that impact down for the driver is great. But as you were saying, this inside and outside guardrail, and those tires seem to really recoil and shoot that car back. And what scared me about that wreck and the big one we had last year at Watkins Glen is when that car recoils and comes out, as Ricky said, that's a blind corner. Those cars are still traveling at well over 100 miles an hour, and those guys are just making impact. There's no escape route. There's nothing that they can do. They're going to hit something, and when you get a car up in the air and cars hitting that hard, it really puts people in danger.
Right, that's where they separate the Cup track from the extended Watkins Glen track, and I'd love to see them put in a false wall, a wall just for this race, because at least it would have been a ricochet as opposed to hitting those tires straight on and then coming back and landing in front of these drivers.
Yeah, it was scary all around. What scared me the most was all that debris that was flying out. It flew across the racetrack. It could have flown right in the window of Joey Logano's car as he skirted by the incident. Luckily, we didn't have to deal with any of that, and everybody was able to walk away. Still plenty to talk about here on NASCAR Now, and well, the best guys to talk about it were the guys who called the race. We'll head out to Watkins Glen and rejoin Dr. Jerry Punch.
Full Throttle is brought to you by Degree V12.
Tony Stewart's sensational season as a rookie car owner continues. He got his first win at Pocono back in June. He had to come from the back of the pack in a backup car and milked it home on fuel mileage. Doesn't matter. He got the first win as a car owner in a points-paying race. A few weeks later, what a wild final lap at Daytona under the lights, and it was Tony Stewart who would survive and get the checkered flag first, and Smoke was the one celebrating in victory lane. Then at Watkins Glen, Tony Stewart would lead twice for 34 laps ahead of an impressive run by Marcus Ambrose, and Stewart gets his 5th win at historic Watkins Glen International. And now with just 4 races remaining before the chase began, Stewart has a 260-point lead over Jimmy Johnson. You see the others there, and good runs back there, particularly by the guys in the Roush camp. 3 Roush drivers trying to stay in the top 12. Carl Edwards from the back of the pack to a 3rd-place finish.
Yeah, he did a terrific job all day. The pit strategy helped them, but he did a really good job of passing cars, kept himself well up into the chase, and that's exactly what they needed to do today.
Yeah, that puts him a little bit clear, and he can almost breathe a little bit now because he's a couple of 100 points ahead of that cutoff point of 12th spot.
Matt Kenseth coming from 42nd starting spot to get a top 15 finish. And what about Juan Pablo Montoya? He gained a couple of spots by finishing 2nd at Pocono and gains another spot with an impressive run here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, did exactly what he said he was going to do, just get top 10s, and he's been able to do that. He kind of kept distance between himself and the cars around him all day long. Looked like he had a really good car, but he was very satisfied with running right there in the top 10. Ended up finishing 6th for the day, so a really good run.
Tony Stewart, though, was the man to beat as he has been here the last 8 years at Watkins Glen. Stewart picks up his 5th win over the past 8 years and his 3rd win in 2009. Tony Stewart, the winner at Watkins Glen once again.
Thanks, Doc. Here's our full throttle race recap. Juan Pablo Montoya finished 6th as he continues his march towards clinching his first chase spot. Finishing 8th is Max Papis for his first career top 10 finish. And Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s disappointing season just keeps on going. He finished 28th or worse in 4 of his last 5 starts. Now let's go down to the pits to the reporters who covered the drivers all afternoon long.
I'm Dave Burns, and I covered the Kurt Busch pit today, which was an exciting day since they started on the outside of row number 1, and they had to make an extra pit stop. They usually try to make it a 2-stop race here, but Kurt had not as good fuel mileage. They had to make a 3rd stop, the early stop on lap 29. The good news is he drove and passed a lot of cars. On the final restart, he was 12th. He drove all the way up to 7th. A hard-fought day for Kurt Busch and the 2 bunch.
I'm Vince Welch. One of the most impressive performances in my section of the pit lane today came from the 16 team of Greg Biffle. His average finish here at Watkins Glen had been 29th in his previous races, the worst of all his other racetracks. Today he finished 5th. Not only a great day today, but it also helped him move up 2 spots in the points from 12th to 10th.
I covered Juan Pablo Montoya in Watkins Glen on Monday. The car was very consistent all day long, and it was a 6th place finish for the 42 gang. Although they did not celebrate in victory lane, the team did meet their goal of a top 9 finish and moved up 1 point in the point standings. They are big picture racing, looking for that chase, and they got it done today.
Great hustle, guys. We appreciate the insight. Still coming up, we'll hear from some of the guys who tried to chase down smoke at the Glen. They came up just a little bit short, though.
This is NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot.
There was much anticipation in the closing laps at Watkins Glen. Many people wondering, A, would he run out of gas? And B, could Marcos Ambrose catch him? Well, the answer is he did not run out of gas, and Marcos Ambrose was unable to catch him. Still, Marcos was able to score his best career finish. Second, this is what he had to say inside the media center following the race Monday.
We'll learn for it next year and hopefully go one more spot up the sheet.
Go ahead, David. David Caravella, NASCAR.com. You mentioned your pit strategy earlier. It sounded like on the radio you and Frank were really torn early in the race about when to come in and when not to come in. Is that when you maybe got off strategy a little bit, or was it later on when you thought the caution was going to come out?
No, yeah, it was the first stop. We were 3rd. We stayed out, and everybody pitted, but except for 3 cars. And then our destiny was set. We couldn't then pit with everybody else because we were off sequence, and we had to just try to then run our own race and just have the shortest pit stop we could as soon as we could make it home. And so when that caution came out, about 10 laps shy of our lap number to make it home, we stopped, got tyres, got fuel, and then we splashed after 10 laps and came in and took off. And that's the difference, was right there, was the very first caution flag is what set our course for the day.
Let's go over here to Papis. Had a question? Oh, you're good? Dave Exum.
Dave Exum, NASCAR Scene. Could each of you please talk about the double file restarts today, if you would?
Yeah, I thought they were good. You've got to be very careful to look after your compadres. It's easy to get into somebody. I actually bumped Carl yesterday, getting a bit greedy into turn 1, and I learnt my lesson. So today, I don't want to ruin Tony's race or Carl's race for the chase, and I was mindful of who I was racing up there, and I think we looked after each other reasonably well. Plenty of good dicing and passing, and a lot of skill level up there to keep everybody off each other, and I think it's good. I think it's great for the fans, and it makes it tough for the drivers, no doubt, but this sport wasn't meant to be easy.
Yeah, it went very well. I thought everyone did a great job. There was one point where I drove down to turn 1 and they were screaming 3 wide, guys on the inside, and Clint Boyer was in there, and we went through turn 1 touching, and we got aggressive, and I think everyone did that, and all day everyone was really, really good.
And guys, one of the underlying stories throughout the day was strategy, and Marcos Ambrose was certainly one of the guys we were talking about early on when it came to fuel. When you started to see his fuel mileage strategy unfold, what did you think?
Well, I thought that they just weren't getting the mileage that they needed. When everybody else pitted around 20, we heard guys saying 33 to 35 laps, so you know that they're going to try and gamble. They're going to bet on caution laps, but when the 47 to 9, and I know another car stayed out, it kind of locked them in. Then you're at the mercy of where the cautions fall, and it is really not a good feeling to be in that. And he was lucky enough to have a caution fall where he could shoot back in, top that thing off gas, and made up a lot of track position. If that hadn't happened, he probably would have finished 10th to 15.
And the other part of it that really struck me from a driver's perspective, and Ray, you can appreciate this because it can get pretty hot, you know, with the confusion. Can we make it? Are we not going to make it? But Marcus impresses me in so many ways, but the biggest thing he does that impresses me is his composure. He is a professional. It takes a long time to learn all the nuances of Sprint Cup Series racing and to be successful. And when you listen to him under the gun, in the car, he is so good with his team, and he backs up his crew chief everything he does. If he said pit, it was the right decision. Not to pit, still the right decision.
If he didn't have that camera on, I'm not quite sure, because I think there was some heated moments in there for Marcus. But one thing, he has a very disciplined road course experience. This guy is as good as it gets, and that really, he saved the car. He knew that at the beginning. He's like, man, I think we might have just cost ourselves a race. But then again, they had that short pit. They dumped the tires on it. They only had 10 laps on the tires. They got the pit. They come in. They got the track position they wanted. And he ended up second.
Another guy who had to be pretty pleased, obviously, Carl Edwards. His best career finish on a road course, bringing it home third. But guys, would you have ever thought we'd be sitting here in August, 4 regular season races remaining? Carl Edwards still does not have a win.
No, but I will be really, really surprised if we're sitting here at the end of the year. And I think that all in all, the Ford camp needs a little bit of speed. You know, today was a good day for Carl. He needed to have a good run, but I think that Ford camp needs to find a little bit of speed as a group to get Carl and the other Fords back to victory lane on the bigger track.
And we're sitting here talking about, can you believe it? How do you think he feels? I'm listening to his interview this weekend, talk about finishing 18th at Pocono. It was agonizing. I felt for Carl Edwards. He stepped it up today. He ran great, but he brought it home. A top 5 on a road course.
Did what he needed to do.
Yeah.
He's just ready to do a backflip. That's all I know.
And we're all ready to see him do a backflip. You know, one of the captivating moments in last year's race was a soundbite from Max Papis. Pardon my rendition, but he said, "I'm a broken in my heart." He wasn't broken in his heart today. He was pretty happy. We'll hear from him coming up later in the show. Baseball fan, you won't want to miss Wednesday night baseball presented by Holiday Inn. It's the Phillies versus the Cubs, 8 p.m. on ESPN. Then on Sunday, it's Sunday night baseball presented by Taco Bell. The Phillies take on the Braves, also on ESPN in high definition. Well, one of the feel-good moments of Monday's race at Watkins Glen had to be the run of Max Papis, a very solid effort considering a year ago he was extremely disappointed. Max pretty happy, as we said. Let's hear from him inside the media center.
Okay, our top finishing Ray Bestos Rookie of the Year candidate, and he came in 8th place. He had a great showing out there today, and that's Max Papis, driver of the number 13 Geico Toyota. Max, certainly you were up near the front all day. Talk about your performance out there in the number 13 car.
You know, we had a game plan that was attacking from the first lap and respectfully, and I think that's what we did. I got awesome restarts in the beginning. I think I put the Geico car in the position to be able to be a contender, and my guys did a insane strategy. You know, we were fantastic on fuel. The Toyota engine was really well calibrated today, and I was really saving a lot of fuel, and I used a lot of those days of sports car racing where fuel mileage is everything, and I used it all today. And we've run out of gas 300 feet after start finish line when we crossed. When we got the checker flag, and that's not luck. That's calculation, because my guys told me that I think we are not going to make it around after the checker flag. And besides that, I had a blast. My best ever finish so far in my NASCAR career. Actually, not really. I had the 3rd in Nationwide, but
in the Sprint Cup.
That's the difference between Nationwide and Cup is like a minor league and major league. These guys here are tough. So really proud of that.
Well, congratulations, Max. We have questions for Max. Anybody have a question for Max? We've got a couple here, right here, and then we'll go right over here and then to Dave. Go ahead.
97, you came back from a lap down to win the sports car race here. What means more to you, this finish here today or that race back there in 97, I think it was?
I mean, I enjoy every race I do. You know, I don't live in the past. I live in the present, and I always say that I'm looking forward for the best win to the one that is going to come. Of course, that day opened my career in America. Today, I feel that we proved everyone that we deserve some respect, and both as a team and as a driver, and you know, we take it from there. You know, I mean, these guys are definitely the best of the best I've ever raced against in my life, point blank. You know, better than Formula One, sports car, IndyCar, everything put together. And you know, when people say that NASCAR drivers are not that good on road courses, I would definitely tell them to shut up, because they're pretty damn good.
I got to tell you, folks, the minute Max opened his mouth during that press conference, every one of us on the panel, we all smiled. What's not to love about Max Papis? The one thing he said there that really stood out for me is he feels like he earned some respect today.
He's got a ton of respect. I mean, he may have an insane strategy and a calibrated motor. We love Max. You know what? He's got dedication is what he has. What people don't know, he has worked for 5 years behind the scenes, you know, unselfishly, just a tremendous amount of work, relentlessly, to get this opportunity, and it's great. I just love to see the guy doing good.
And it's so interesting you say that. The 4 years I raced with Cal Wells, I got to know Max. He's good friends with Cal. You spend 5 minutes with Max, and you're friends with him, right?
Oh, absolutely.
This guy is a great guy, so nice to be around, and you feel good about him having a day like this.
You know what? I spent an afternoon with Max. We went to Darlington and got him to qualify at Darlington. Rode around there in a Toyota pickup. I mean, I thought he was going to blow the right front tire off, run the thing out of fuel. I see how dedicated he is, how happy he is to be in Cup racing. And I tell you what, I'm an old Yankee redneck, and I couldn't understand half of the day with him, but I had a great time. And they say I'm hard to understand. He's very passionate about what he does.
You are hard to understand.
Thank you.
But we love you anyway. Hey, folks, still plenty more here to come on the show as we get you ready for the remainder of the regular season. Next up on the schedule, Michigan. Fuel mileage, always a factor. We'll discuss that and everything else that goes into that race in Brooklyn.
NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot. Visit HomeDepot.com. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. And in part by Nationwide Insurance, official auto insurance partner of NASCAR.
NASCAR Now returns Tuesday at its normal time, 5 Eastern on ESPN2. We'll recap Watkins Glen and spin it forward as we look forward to the Irish Hills of Michigan and the Michigan International Speedway. Gentlemen, let's talk about Michigan, shall we? It always comes down to fuel mileage, it would seem. Today, fuel mileage was certainly a factor. What do you need to have buttoned up going into Michigan when it comes to fuel mileage?
Well, you need to know exactly how much fuel your car can pick up, how much it holds, how much you can save by backing off RPM, and how good your driver is at saving that fuel.
That brings up a good point. You guys are drivers. What do you do to save fuel?
Well, this is a racetrack. You can't use any brake. You want to get off the brake. You just want to roll on the gas, roll off the gas. Use the draft. This place is a very fast racetrack. And also, this racetrack is very wide. They're not going to have any trouble going in the middle, on the bottom, on top. Save fuel, you want to run the bottom, the shortest way around. So the closer you can run to the bottom through the corners to save fuel, that's what they need to do.
Yeah, these drivers are really excited about going to a racetrack that opens up. 2, 3, 4 lane choices through the corners. You're going to see the contenders really mixing it up here because they can get away with it. They have room to race.
And we talk about the contenders. Carl Edwards, we spoke about him earlier in the show. He had been good at tracks like this, especially in 2008. Can he rekindle that magic this week?
It's a Ford racetrack, and historically it's been very good to Roush. And, you know, with the run that Carl Edwards had, this is the time of year where drivers and teams are looking for momentum. They got it. They need to keep it.
Well, if any of the manufacturers want to brag up, they need to start right in their backyard. So all manufacturers are going to be pumped up to do as good as they can for their employees if they have any left.
Ray, what are you going to be watching for in Michigan?
Well, I'm going to be watching, really, as Ricky said, it's a Ford track, so this may be a track for Roush and the Fords to turn it around. It may be a place where, you know, they've gotten good fuel mileage with the Roush cars in the past there historically, so it might be a race that they may be able to win without having the power, let's say, of a Toyota or a Chevrolet.
All right, guys, we got about one more minute on the show. Final thoughts about today.
Final thoughts for me is Greg Biffle, Kyle Busch, Juan Pablo Montoya. They took care of business. And I'll tell you what, with 5 races to go before the chase, it's all about taking care of business. Those guys really helped their case.
Well, one of the things I see the most thing today, safety. This COT car, these guys have done a fabulous job of keeping these drivers safe. Safer seats, safer belts, anything they can do to help these drivers, they have accomplished that with this race car.
I agree. It was great to see those guys walk away from that crash today. And congratulations again to Marcus Ambrose. Had a great weekend. Sat on the nationwide pole, won the nationwide race, finished second today.
An amazing performance by the 14 team. Baffles me that they say they can still get better. Do you believe that?
I think they can get better.
You know, Marcus almost swept like the Yankees.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Now we're walking home.
Yeah. The 2 New Yorkers, the 2 New Englanders, that was just a dirty hit. Anyways, guys, thanks for being with us. We appreciate all the folks who tuned in today. An unscripted NASCAR Now show. We hope you enjoyed it. We enjoyed putting it together for you. We leave you with these last shots from Watkins Glen.